It's The Amazing Mary Jane. And let's just go for a no-nonsense review, shall we? Hey, this is Perch. I wasn't going to review this issue, but then there were some other reviews out there, and people were giving pretty polarized. It's amazing. It's the greatest comic of the month. It's terrible. It's all woke and stuff, and then it's boring, and then this is the start of a new Marvel. So, what's the truth in all this? Well, I mean, the reality of it is it's kind of none of those things. This is a Mary Jane comic. We've had solo Mary Jane adventures before, but always as a backup story or as a kind of a fill-in. What's Mary Jane doing within the Spider-Man title? So unless I'm very much misremembering something, this is the first time we've had Mary Jane, the comic, as the Amazing Mary Jane. So it's written by Leah Williams, and you might remember Leah Williams from such amazing masterpieces as the Age of X-Men X-Tremists. It's probably her biggest profile work, but she's also done some stuff with Domino. She's done some stuff with X-Men Black, a couple random things throughout Marvel. She also is currently writing Gwenpool Strikes Back. Now, she for me represents kind of the most baffling part of 2019 in terms of X titles. Well, I mean, just titles in general. If I'm thinking about the craziest moments, X-Tremists gave us the Blob Psylocke relationship. It gave us some just bizarre dialogue, long kind of jokes that weren't sure where the joke was coming from. We had Blob just saying, "I want to F you so bad," Betsy, and just and then a riot that was strange. And then over in Gwenpool Strikes Back, we got some scenes around the most popular people the old folks don't understand, and it just kind of some very. It's been quite a run. Anyway, Carlos Gomez, on the other hand, has done a couple things. I believe Red Sonja, Secret Warps. There's been a few little things. I think he did something for X-Men at one point. Anyway, so this issue, just to give a little bit more of the backstory, and then we'll get into this comic. This issue is springing off of a plot point in Amazing Spider-Man, where there's big centipede-like villain that is called Kindred, and there's some kind of connection to Peter that is sneaky and bad. And he's been kind of haunting Spider-Man since Nick Spencer took over the book. And Mysterio was kind of wrapped up in that. So Mysterio actually committed suicide at one point and went to hell, apparently, and was released from hell by some demon. And there's some speculation that's tied into Mephisto and the whole One More Day storyline and all the rest. But Mysterio's been kind of trying to dodge Kindred. And he escaped out to L.A., and for kind of tied up in this whole plot line, he's doing a movie and wanted MJ out there with him to do this movie. And there's some manipulation by Kindred in there. It's all kind of wrapped up in this whole more or less storyline. He's asking Mysterio to stick to the script, so to speak. And part of the script is getting MJ out to Hollywood to film this movie. And the movie is, more or less maybe dodgy. So that's where this issue is kind of coming into play. So we open it right up, and we just right into some action. It's a cold opening into MJ taking out this kind of odd version of Sinister Six. Doc Ock has washed his costume with the pink towels, and so he's got that pink and purple costume. Kraven the Hunter is there. Just kind of a battle, and she's fighting them both off. And she's in this latex suit, this kind of rubberish latex bodysuit with a mask, and she's flopping all over the place. And that's where I think a lot of the reviews this first page won a lot of people over. It's like, oh, look at this. We've got some nice hefty breasts swinging around, and MJ's fighting them because those belong to Doc Ock, and she's pretty big too. But anyway, the movie it's a movie scene, and MJ's like, this is a terrible film. And the girls are talking about how the script is really bad, and it's really cheesy, bad acting, bad script. Then there's some insider Hollywood stuff like, you're not insured to handle lighting equipment. One of the things about Leah Williams I notice, and some of the writers, is they choose to devote a lot of airtime to kind of what seems like meaningless things that really seem to have everything to do with kind of selling the fact that, oh, these are some insider things about Hollywood. I'm never really sure if anybody cares about kind of this piece. It's supposed to maybe immerse you into the comic. Don't know if it does that or not. I think to each your own. But we get kind of an arrogant Spider-Man coming out, and then we discover that the kangaroo is help doing the set work. And so it's basically the people are villains. MJ corners Mr. McKnight, the director, who doesn't want to be cornered, who kind of runs off. And then she basically says, you need to tell me what's going on here or I quit. And he cops to it that it's actually Quentin Beck, Mysterio, and he's making kind of his magnum opus. He says he doesn't know how much time he has left. He's kind of saying, I'm being hunted, so I want to make this big movie about my life and kind of where I get to be the hero. And so then we get a bunch of talking back and forth. This is like talk. And the point here is it's a long-winded way of saying basically that Mary Jane's here. She wants to be part of, wants a movie role, but she doesn't want to be part of a scam. She's kind of curious what's going on with the original director. The original director's been sent off to shoot penguins. Once again, I think Leah Williams injects just odd stuff into the comic, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It reminds me of David Lynch a bit in just, which is a compliment, in that these weird kind of oddball things will get inserted into the comic, and it sometimes lands, but it often feels like an editor would be really well served here to kind of come in and help say, all right, this is you're going too far with this joke and not far enough in this basic storyline plot. But anyway, Mysterio basically convince her, he's hiding out, but then when he reveals himself to her, then they walk around for a while in his costume with a bunch of people in the background that in theory would be like, hey, there's a supervillain over there, but oh, well, whatever. So Mysterio basically says, yeah, there are a bunch of villains working on the set. I did that because I wanted to give them the chance to work on something meaningful. Mary Jane says she's in, but only on the condition of rewriting some of the script. She says, the big point is the female lead, i.e. her, is just got terrible dialogue, and he at first disagrees, but then she's like convinces him pretty much in 2 panels, like, the script calls for me fighting in a squeaky latex catsuit. It ripped twice yesterday. He's like, yes, all right, I see what you mean. Let's discuss. And then she wins him over with the idea of, hey, why don't we give me more to do, where she can be an actual self-actualized character and have a whole backstory and it's good. And then they get on the golf cart and they ride around and they kind of discuss this big overhaul to her character where she's going to have more to do, more to say. And this all leads to kind of this opening up bigger things. And he's like, oh, maybe we can delve into more of her story in a sequel. And she gets real excited. And now she's like, yeah, sequel. And then we get kind of a Harvey Weinstein-like joke. And we get a big scene of Mysterio doing the, word clap thing. That's so amazing. And it's just one of the most powerful, good intellectual ways on Twitter. And I think some people thought this was making fun of Twitter. Having read this back and forth, I don't think so. I think there's a guy making a gross little Harvey Weinstein kind of, she must have done him to get the role. And then he comes over, he picks her up. This isn't Mysterio being a villain. This is Mysterio actually having just listened to the opinions and the ideas of the female lead, who's basically wanting to rewrite the character and standing up for her. So this isn't meant to be, unless the message here is that, hey, the word clap stuff is actually a villainous, rotten move because it's being done here by a villain who's, kind of mindless and pointless. Anyway, and then he fires him and off it goes. The writer of this comic has used that same technique in her tweets. So I'm thinking no. So anyway, we get some paparazzi there and taking pictures for some reason. One of them is red skinned and one of them is green skinned. Okay, and they haul the guy off the set who's for whatever reason clapping at him. Made him fall over and kind of pass out. So anyway, Quentin Beck kind of goes through more of the things. And then as they're talking about kind of the craziness of having the villains and this giant hologram of Mysterio and everything else, Mary Jane kind of laughs and realizes, I just realized we're going to have so much fun making this movie. And this is a kind of ha ha ha, crazy manic kind of behavior that you saw a lot in Extremis. It's very much, it feels like the same kind of Jubilee Iceman banter that would happen there. So we segue then to kind of the second half of the book, which is Peter in New York and MJ in LA, and they're having a phone conversation with their iPhones. And Peter, for whatever reason, has his mask up. He's fighting a giant, squid monster villain in a grocery store that is, I think, eating boxes and putting them in itself. I'm not sure. But he's got his mask half up, and he's basically carrying on the phone conversation the whole time while ceiling tiles and people are running for cover and being smashed and destroyed. Once again, we've got MJ kind of walking around in her, Spider-Man pajama pants and a very, very tight black spaghetti top, and she's bursting at the seams. And I think there's the reason number two that some people like this book. But she sends him a little picture, and then he's happy and she's happy, and then they both do the kind of wacky millennial thing where he's just saved everybody and they're in different places, and then she plays some music and they decide to have a 20-second dance party to connect, even though they're not in the same place. And he misses her so much, and it's just meant to be kind of fun, wacky behavior. And she's drawn with super curves, and Peter's drawn in a doing a little funky dance. And then the issue ends with the Vulture and his kind of new Sinister Six, or he didn't have a Sinister Six. I forget what the Vulture's new gang here. The Savage Six. That's what we've got here. So we got Vulture, we've got Scorpion, we've got Tarantula, we've got Rhino, we've got King Cobra, and Stegron. So they're basically they're seeing, hey, there's a movie, let's head to LA. Old Cage McKnight, who they don't realize is Mysterio, is doing something, so they're going to head to Los Angeles and cause some trouble. And that's the issue. So all in all, fundamentally, this is an issue of two parts. Part one is Mary Jane's on the set. She gets a backstory that Mysterio is there, despite knowing he's a villain, and caused some trouble. She agrees to keep going with the movie because, it's good for her career. And it's going to be so much wacky fun working with a bunch of supervillains and doing this thing. And part two is kind of a pajama party, dance party, Spider-Man doing some Spider-Man stuff. And there you have it. Art's nice. Nothing wrong with the art. It's definitely an art style designed to appeal to people like boobs. So, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It's nice. Over in in some of these other issues, you had Fearless, where Captain Marvel was written as a kind of anemic. Just bizarre. It's not like she's drawn like a man. She's drawn like a strange, like, skeletal creature. It's like, this is what meth does to you, folks. So it's nice to see this type of art style. No shade there. It's great. At the same time, there's just not. There's not a lot here. If you're picking this up, it's either a story that works for you or not. It's a fun little comic story. So if you want a fun little comic story, great. But it's is this the return of epic storytelling to Marvel? I think a lot of people are going to kind of go all in with this issue, and then come to the realization on issue number 2 or issue number 3 that it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is written by Leah Williams, and it's like, whoa. There's got to be this whoops moment where people are more aware of, this is the same person who's writing Gwenpool right now and doing, very kind of, very, very odd stuff where they're, for all intents and purposes, making fun of current fandom and stuff. So, this isn't somebody I saw somebody saying, finally a comic book that's made for us. Nah, it's making fun of you. It trust me. I'm just saying, it's making fun of you. You may not realize it yet, but trust me, it is. Is this so? All that said, would you like this comic? If you're looking for just a kind of a light adventure, a little bit of Mary Jane, it sort of reminds you of Mary Jane. It's not classic Mary Jane. It's not totally oddball Mary Jane. It's just kind of there. If you like long storylines around acting in Hollywood, sure. If you like a lot of insider stuff, might work for you. I'm trying to think of a comic it would resemble. If you're a fan of Gwenpool right now, you'll like this, guaranteed. If you kind of are always been interested in the supporting cast of Spider-Man and don't really care about the Spider-Man adventures, and this probably works for you too. And if you're ready for kind of Hollywood hijinks, yeah, it works. Art's good. Story is, like I said, I can't quite get a feel for Leah Williams and kind of what she's bringing to the table, but we will see. Anyway, what do you think? Did you like the issue? Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and thanks for listening.